We're going to now start demonstrating some of the AI tools. So let's have a look at three different flavors of generative AI. First, we're going to start with conversational co-pilots. It's that kind of Swiss Army knife of AI tools. And you use them today, Gen AI, Claude, Gemini, they're all examples of conversational co-pilots. Second, we're going to look at visual creativity engines, and we're specifically going to look at Midjourney, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It does short videos as well as images, great for presentations. And finally, we're going to look at notebook-style workbenches, which is a really important tool for auditors, data scientists as well, where you can take large quantities of data and look for patterns within that data. Specifically, we'll look at how we could do fraud analytics. Now, I'm going to use public versions of the tools. Public versions of the tools mean that it is potentially possible that when you put data into the tool, that it could be used for that tool's learning purposes, and it could then therefore divulge that data to someone else. So we do not put private data into these kind of public tools. There are commercial versions of these tools where it will honor your privacy, and you really need to follow your AI policies. I just want to say, be cautious of that. Now, it's very useful, however, to use these public tools in order to be able to get an idea how to use AI tools, because AI tools, you need to be able to use it to be able to work in this current world. You know, that's all the data says. Those people are going to be really successful in their careers are people that know how to use these tools. So let's get started. I run a couple of the commands beforehand, just so you don't have to sit around and wait for the command to run. So the first one that I actually ran, and I'm going to, I've shared my screen, and you can see ChatGPT over here, and you'll notice ChatGPT, there are different models that are tuned for different outcomes. O4 is actually really great at coding. I don't know if you know that ChatGPT is pretty good at writing code. So the first question that I asked it is, and you'll notice when you put prompts in, the way that you ask it determines how good a result you get in. So I said, take the role of an IT audit and cyber risk analyst, which means it's going to answer that from that question. I uploaded a file just by using that plus area, right? And I uploaded an audit issues comma delimited file. And that's just a list of issues that I found while doing an audit. Sometimes people go, well, can I have that file? Your client has different issues from my client, so you would create your own file with that client's issues. And we've told it to load the file and map the results to the NIST CSF functions, create an executive-ready summary, as well as top-level recommendations for the board. And for each one of these issues to suggest one CIS safeguard, that is the Center of Internet Security, one of their controls. So it went ahead and it did exactly that. It went through it and it loaded all of the audit issues in the file that I gave it. And it's come back and created a remediation roadmap. So it said, for each one of those issues, here is how you fix the issue, the recommended action. It did that all on its own. And it said, conduct and document or update and test. And it's created a nice little graph and said the majority of our issues are actually sitting in the protect function of the cybersecurity framework. It created a nice little executive summary for my report with a top-level recommendation. So we understand from this that ChatGPT is really good at analyzing data and putting things together like summary of information. We must remember, however, that the ChatGPT and the Gen AI tools are co-pilots. You are the pilot. You don't just pick that data up, copy it, and put it in the report. You got to read it and make sure that there are no errors in the report, because the outcomes are only as good as the data that it has, and sometimes there may be errors in the data. Claude, you may not have used. I'm actually very fond of Claude. I think it does a really good job. And what I asked Claude to do is I said, take the role, or you are an IT audit consultant. I gave it the goal, which is to create a checklist. It's very good at creating checklists. And I said, list, and I said the checklist is for mid-sized financial services company, NIST CSF functions. And I wanted it to also list 10 to 12 priority controls for every function and flag any that was regulatory And you can see it's done a great job here. And Claude does it slightly differently. The command's on the left and on the right is the output. I could have copied that, or I could save it as a PDF. And it's giving me all the information around exactly what I require. So I'll move that over a little so you can actually see. You can, for each of the different functions, it's actually come up with that. So great job on creating testing checklists. It's really good at that. And Gemini is another Gen AI tool, just like ChatGPT. And I gave it a separate list of questions. And I said, okay, you're an internal planning field work. You're an auditor planning field work, and to draft, and you've got some questions for cloud, but you want to just make sure that you haven't missed anything out. So I'm getting it to create the top questions to ask management and the technical staff. So, and I've given it any constraints that there are, told it very clearly what the tasks are, which is to generate the questions, and with each question to say why that question is important, right? And where the evidence would come from. And you can see it's done a really great job here. For each of these areas, it's created the audit question and the rationale and the primary evidence source, because I was quite clear about what clouds it actually is in. So that's really cool. You'll notice that most of them actually now, in preparation for the EU AI Act, is show transparency. It tries to tell you how it came to the conclusion. You also see, amusingly enough, that they try and humanize Gen AI by saying thinking. It doesn't actually think. It processes. Other things you could use it for. So we've now used it for a checklist. We've used it to create executive summary. We've asked it to create draft questions for an audit. You'll be impressed to know that it can also check code. So for instance, we could go ahead and ask it to analyze this application. So we could put it in there and say, okay, let's go ahead and analyze this application to see if there are any coding errors in there. I'm just going to put that in there. And paste that in. All right, and I said you're a secure code auditor. I've uploaded this Python script. Check whether there are any issues with the Python script. And so it's going through and it's actually reading that file. And I said, create a 200-word executive summary. Make sure that there were no issues in it. And I've given it something very difficult to do. So we might go and have a look at another program while it's doing it. I've asked it to also see whether it can refactor the code and make the fixes. So that's something you may not have been aware of. ChatGPT is very good at creating code. I could, for instance, get it to create a PowerShell script to be able to fix the problem on my Windows machine, and it would do that. So here you see it has gone ahead, it did it far faster than I thought, 33 seconds, and it's come up with all of the issues in that code. It created an executive summary highlighting the major risks with this particular Python code. It actually fixed the code over here, and it provides us some guidance on how we could test it. Isn't that fantastic? The next tool I'm going to show you is actually Midjourney, and Midjourney is kind of a cool tool. Actually, it came up here. So here I used English language. All I did is I copied this, I copied it in. I'm not going to run it because I've already run it. Use this image, and I uploaded an image of myself. And I said, can you please create a figure, I spelled that wrongly, in the interior of a luxurious castle, and put some large feathered wings on me. And it's done exactly that. You can see it's created 4 possible options. There I am spinning with wings on my back. So quite extraordinary what the capabilities are. And you could create images using that as well. You can see I've created images in a castle there, and all kinds of different images that you can use for presentations. The last one I'll mention is Google Colab. So Google Colabs, I have created a simple fraud analysis demo. And you can see that this demo is written in Python. I don't actually code in Python. I got ChatGPT to create this Python code, and I told it I could have actually given it some fraud data. There's publicly accessible fraud data that you can actually run analysis on to test your code. Or in this case, I told it to simulate the data, right? Just so that we could watch that. And I said, okay, go ahead and analyze this synthetic data and look to see if there's any fraud patterns. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to run that. And as we run it, you will see that it's going through and it's looking to see if there are any transactions that are going to be flagged as suspicious. And yes, we see that there is transaction analysis that identified some fraud. It correctly identified fraud 41 times. And it's trying to indicate to us these were the anomalous transactions that is probably indicated is fraudulent. So definitely having a play with Google Colabs gives you an idea of what the capabilities are around that. I'm just going to pause as well to mention that beyond this, we're going to be talking about tools that are here to help you put some governance around Gen AI. And the tools that I really want to highlight is the Atlas Matrix. And you can see that's on MITRE. I've provided a link in your material, and this gives you all of the list of attacks that are possible against AI. So for instance, if you were concerned around, I don't know, being able to evade AI models, if you click on that, it actually tells you what that attack is about, different case studies about where it's used, and it actually describes with the mitigations and the tactics. So if you need to learn more about how folks are attacking AI systems, then all of this information is in the Atlas Matrix, and I do provide links to that. The Cloud Security Alliance has been doing a great job with AI. They come up with an AI controls matrix, which are all the different controls that you require or should be in place to secure this AI systems. So you can go ahead and download that. That's completely free. OWASP has done a fantastic job in creating some security and privacy guides, a lot of information, as well as an AI exchange website. So well worth downloading some of their information. Here as well is the NIST AI risk management framework, and you have this link in your resources. And this says the way that you control AI risk is through governing, mapping, measuring, and managing. And you can download all of this as a comma delimited file, put it in Excel, and it tells you about the controls you should have around AI deployment, design, impact assessments. Very useful. Right, so we will return to our slides.